New year, new semester, new season, and new host. Hello everyone, I'm Evan Kamikow, and welcome to The Toss-Up. Now that 2020 is over, it's time for the rest of college sports to come back, and this is the place to be. Each week, join myself and an expert-line panel to dissect the latest sports news from some of the nation's most elite college programs here in Bloomington to the biggest stages around the world. Stick around because we have a great show for you coming up on The Toss-Up. This has been arguably the best program in Bloomington over the last decade, and maybe more. But the Hoosiers men's soccer program was forever changed in 2009 when IU legend Todd Yeagley took over. Yes, the same Todd Yeagley whose father, Jerry, coached for the Hoosiers for over 30 years. Flash forward 12 years, the team has 10 NCAA tournament appearances, 4 Big Ten championships, and 1 College Cup title. 2021 is sure to be a different animal. A late February start and a 10-game COVID season, there is going to be a lot of learning and adjusting on the fly. With the loss of Aiden Morris, Josh Penn, and Simon Weaver, to name a few, this season will be drastically different. But when are 2 seasons ever the same? It's been over 450 days since the team last took the pitch, and we are glad that soccer is finally back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Toss-Up, the first show of Season 10. Joining me to talk all things men's soccer and get you ready at home for the season are IDS men's soccer reporter Evan Gerike and Big Ten Network Student U men's soccer reporter Tamar Sher. So, without further ado, let's toss up men's soccer. Tamar, we're going to start with you. Men's soccer is ranked number 7 in the country and number 1 in the Big Ten according to the poll that came out today. How do you think that this long layoff is going to impact the team, and what are you looking forward to as the season starts?
You know, Evan, honestly, if any team is going to succeed after a long layoff in the Big Ten, it's Indiana. Now, Todd Yeagley has been talking all week about how his team is prepared, they're ready. It was a very long layoff, but at the same point in time, this is the year that they're going to be able to establish their freshmen early on because they had the time, they had the practice and ability to do what they want to do. And I think that this layoff, while some think of it as a kind of hiatus period, the Indiana soccer program really allowed that to be their time to move forward and really to watch themselves succeed so that they can come into this season stronger than ever.
Awesome. Evan?
And like you said, this is Indiana men's soccer we're talking about. This isn't, some of the other teams at the bottom of the Big Ten. This is the pinnacle of college soccer. And while the ACC has already had their season, the Big Ten is just coming back. They're going to be ready because that's who this program is. Mm-hmm. Once they get back on the field, it's going to be the same experienced team that we've seen. They're very disciplined. They're incredibly focused. They're going to come in and they're going to do what they've always done and be Indiana men's soccer.
Mm-hmm. And, like you said, they're going to come in, they're going to be ready for the season. Todd Yeagley is in his 12th season now here at Indiana. The Hoosiers have won the Big Ten championship the last 2 seasons, but this is a different year. There was no COVID back then. Now there's COVID. So, Evan, we'll start with you. How do you think Todd Yeagley has been mentally preparing his team for the upcoming season?
Well, I really don't think it's been as difficult as you might think it would be. The hardest part preparing this team mentally came back in March when the season, you don't know, everything's up in the air. You don't know where it was going to happen come fall. What they did was they got on Kahoot and did Kahoot quizzes all the time to try to kind of create that team bond, even though they're all over the country. Mm-hmm. Now you don't really have to mentally prepare this team because they all want to get back on the field. And of course, once the season starts, they're going to be ready. They're going to be motivated by their last loss against UC Santa Barbara over a year ago now. They're going to use that to fuel themselves. Yeagley doesn't necessarily have to hold that over them because they know what it feels like to be so close. They know what it feels like to lose, and they don't want to do that again.
Tamar?
And at the same time, piggybacking off of you, this is a team that has a strong senior leadership, and Yeagley can rely on those players to be able to help them and push the freshmen, because this is going to be a very big bench in terms of underclassmen. So to have those senior leaders to be able to bring them in and have that familiarity, and the senior leaders are those that want to piggyback off of Todd Yeagley. They want to have that familiarity because this is a winning program. Indiana is a winning soccer program. So I think that if they're able to kind of capitalize on that Yeagley mentality and push them forward, that's what they're going to do. But I think Yeagley is really relying on those senior leaders to be able to help them push forward.
And now that we've kind of talked about the senior leaders off the field, let's talk about them on the field. What do you kind of look at them this season? How do you think they're going to produce for the team? And, how are they going to perform in games?
Right. It's AJ Palazzolo, Spencer Glass, Ian Black, There are so many senior leaders on this squad and upperclassmen to be able to help show the underclassmen that this is what needs to be done. They know what Todd Yeagley has set out for them. They know that they want to win titles. Thomas War is one of those guys who was talking earlier this year about how he just wants to win titles, and that's the mentality they always set for themselves. And no matter the layoff, it's not going to change their mentality going into a new season.
And you talked about Thomas War. That's one of those guys who's expected to have a breakout season. Spencer Glass, again, you can't talk about IU men's soccer this season without talking about Spencer Glass. He is one of the players to watch for Top Drawer Soccer, number 4 in the country. Preseason top 11, Matt Herman watch list. He's one of those guys that is going to be the engine for this team over there in left back, driving this program forward, experience leadership on the field, experience leadership off the field. This team's going to run through that left back spot with him, guiding everyone else around him. It's going to be very important for him and a lot of those senior leaders to kind of guide this team after such an unexpected layoff. That even though they have never experienced something like this, the experience of them playing for IU men's soccer for so long is going to help them out with that.
And now we've talked about the older guys. Let's get into some of the younger guys, the freshmen and the sophomores. Who do you guys think is going to have the biggest impact right away when play starts tomorrow? Evan, we'll start with you.
There are certain guys from the freshman incoming class that you might be surprised to hear on the field. Joey Mayer, the younger brother of Jack Mayer, might be in there. Lawson Redmond, both center backs. You've got Daniel Mooney at one spot, who's a sophomore, who's going to be playing a lot. He's going to be very good. But that other center back spot is going to be kind of a rotation. It's going to be people filling in that spot. So you're going to see some freshmen in there occasionally. Different kind of guys are going to come that you might not be expecting, you might not have heard before. But because of the youth of this team, Yeagley is ready to substitute anyone in and out at any time. So you might get some of those freshmen in there.
And you didn't mention Victor Becerra. That is the name that we are constantly watching and looking out for. Todd Yeagley said that he is the guy that last season he did have starts within the last 9 games that they were able to play in live action. Of course, that wasn't for a while, over 450 days since they've seen live action. But at the same time, Victor is one of those players that even during this time, this off time, he really capitalized on it and was able to even produce more mentally. He is tough. He knows that he needs to be a role of all sorts for this team because he has experience as a sophomore, but at the same time, he has really shown himself and produced. So that is an underclassman that we are definitely going to be hearing a lot more of his name.
And it's definitely someone who we heard a lot of his name last year. Now, final question before we head over to a break is, with the season opener being moved to Grand Park, what kind of impact, if any, do you think this will have on the game against Wisconsin?
I don't think there's going to be as much of an impact as you might expect. The main one is going to be playing off the turf versus playing off real grass, a little bit different of a bounce, but the field is full-sized. So they're going to be playing just as they would at Armstrong Stadium. And Yeagley talked about this, when they practiced over the winter, they were in Mellencamp, not a full-size field. When they were at the edge of the field, they're close to the wall, they can't make those tackles. They can do that at Grand Park. So it's going to be mostly about those bounces off the turf. It'll always be a little bit different, but it's not going to be as big of an impact as you might expect with such a big venue change.
Right. This is Indiana men's soccer we're talking about. They have the same goals in mind. Win titles. They have the same trophies they want to go for. They need to build their resume in order to get them to the NCAA tournament. So I don't think that they are thinking anything other than they want to capitalize on these opportunities and really, really, really do what they do best, and that is to win. So I think that it's not going to make that much of an impact, but they still have that home advantage of some sort. They are a little bit closer to their opponents, so I don't think it's going to make a difference, exactly like you said, Evan.
But hopefully IU fans will travel. And coming up after the break, IUS TV's Jordan Gold will be joining the show to talk all things IU men's soccer alum. And then we go fast. It's our fast fire questions, and you're not going to want to miss it. Stick around.
We are almost 1 year into this pandemic since life came to a halt last March. By now, you've probably had enough time to digest this question. Is IU a basketball school? Are they a football school? After the magical season Indiana football had, I could see how an argument could be made that yes, IU is in fact a football school. But now, allow me to introduce the men's soccer program. If you hadn't heard of their success by now, you should. From the glory days under Gerike to the modern day Todd Yeagley era, IU men's soccer has been the destination for recruits who want to compete for college cups and take the next step in their professional careers. Yeagley has groomed 17 different Hoosiers that were MLS draft selections, including Jack Mayer, Aiden Morris from last season's squad, Griffin Dorsey, and 2018 Matt Kerman Award winner Andrew Gutman, given to college soccer's top player. There have been 2 whole MLS drafts since IU men's soccer last played against UC Santa Barbara back in December of 2019. Mayer went number 2 overall to Nashville SC in the 2020 draft, while Simon Waver and Joe Risa-Linvey went in later rounds. This year, Josh Penn was selected 10th overall to Inter Miami in the MLS. And there'll be plenty more Hoosiers turning to the pros with Todd Yeagley at the helm at Indiana. Expect guys like Victor Becerra, Spencer Glass, and Herb Endele to make a big impact for the Hoosiers this season. Will Indiana get to that 9th college cup this season that they have been seeking since their last win back in 2012? Well, fans will have to wait to find out. But count on this, IU is in fact a soccer school. Evan, back to you.
Thanks, Jordan. And now it's time for our fast fire questions. I'm going to ask each of you guys questions, and since we're going fast, you have about 30 to 45 seconds to answer. You guys ready? All right, Evan, we'll start with you. This season, who is the name to know for the IU Hoosiers men's soccer team?
Well, I'm going to bring up a guy that we haven't talked about yet today. Goalkeeper Roman Celentano. Had a fantastic season last year. He played 14 games, started all 14. He's the goalkeeper for the soccer team. He's important. He's going to be a driving force for IU this season. Yeagley talked about how he stepped up in his leadership roles, just his goalkeeping ability in general. He kind of took that starting job at the end of the year. His goals against average was 0.5 goals per game. The last 6 games of the season, he only let up 1 goal, and it just happened to be the one that ended their season.
Tamar?
I'm going to go with AJ Palazzolo. He is that senior leader that is going to do great things. You know he's going to do great things, and he is that person that Yeagley is always relying on. So there's no doubt that AJ Palazzolo will be an incredible contributor for this season.
And Tamar, we'll stick with you for the next one. Will the Hoosiers have over or under 7.5 wins in this 10-game season? Over.
I'm an optimist, but at the same time, they were 7-1 in conference play last year. There's no chance they won't, and they're looked at as one of the highest in the Big Ten right now in the preseason. So going in, I'm gonna say over.
Evan?
Yeah, they're the Big Ten favorites. You got to go with over. Although, if there's a year where they might underperform, it could be this one. Obviously, a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of things that we don't know how things are gonna go this year. But I still think they're gonna get that over on the 7.5 wins.
And especially with games against Penn State, Michigan, and Maryland, those are 3 teams that are right around the top 25 mark. Which 7.5 could look good, could look bad. We'll find out. Evan, we'll go with you on this one. Who is the biggest challenger to IU this season?
Yeah, it's got to be Maryland. There's a little bit of history there, too. 2018 College Cup. They got knocked out by Maryland. Maryland's the second highest team in the Big Ten in that preseason prediction for the Big Ten. Maryland was second. So those are going to be the guys you got to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. And if I were Indiana, I'd want to beat Michigan because they just barely won in the Big Ten tournament last year. They won in penalty kicks. So I think if I was Indiana, I would want to face Michigan again and really succeed in that game because that's the competition that they want to have this season, but they want to win, and I think they will.
Mm-hmm. And what is your prediction for IU season MVP?
Season MVP, I think I'm going to have to go with Spencer Glass. We're going to hear that name a lot. You already named his accolades, but he is that player that we are going to be seeing a lot this season.
Well, you did steal mine, so I'll go a little bit different. Victor Becerra, the striker, he is after only his freshman year, he's second on IU in career goals. Spencer Glass has 9, he has 8. He's going to be the driving force on that strike force. He's going to be an important player this season.
No Thomas War. Interesting. Interesting. Left out the other captain. All right, let's do postseason predictions. Evan, we'll start with you. What is the floor for this IU team this season?
Well, this is IU men's soccer we're talking about. The floor is making the NCAA tournament. They've done it almost 22 straight years, I believe it is. If they're not in the tournament, they're disappointed.
No shot they don't end up in the tournament, But of course, they're going to win the Big Ten. I think they're going to win the Big Ten tournament. They're going to get into the NCAA tournament. There's just no question about it. If it wouldn't be Indiana soccer if they didn't make it there.
Yeah, I mean, this team has been so dominant, for almost 30 plus years. That I think they're on. You said 22. I think it's 33 season, postseason run that they've been on, and an absolute terror. I don't think that ends this season. So we talked about the floor. Let's move to the ceiling. Tamar, what's your ceiling for this team?
Gosh, Elite Eight, College Cup. I think they could be College Cup champions. I don't know because of course. This is a year like no other. And that's what we can't say whether or not they're going to have the most successful season they've ever had, or we don't know how the freshmen are going to be able to handle this without having any live action before now. And it's been over 400 days, but I really do think I'm going to give it to them and say they're going to make it to the College Cup championship.
Evan, ceiling?
Yeah, if we're talking about the absolute ceiling, you go with national champions. Every year, that's pretty much the ceiling for IU men's soccer. I'll even one-up that ceiling and the double, Big Ten tournament champions and Big Ten regular season champions.
Wow, double. But, when you're talking College Cup, you got a lot of tough teams. You're going to see Georgetown. You could see Pitt, Clemson, to name a few. Those are teams that are, the top 3 in the country right now. So what kind of run do you think that they're going to make in the College Cup? Assuming they make it, what run do you see them making?
Like I said before, I think, okay, they could make it to the Elite Eight, but also they could win the whole thing. So I think it really is dependent on whether or not they can find their footing early on because, of course, there's only 10 matchups, and it's all Big Ten. So it's going to be a tough schedule. They're going to have to work hard to be able to get to that tournament spot, but they will do it. And I think the floor is Elite Eight, but that ceiling, of course, is final champions.
Number 9, Evan?
Yeah, and that run obviously is super dependent on how they get their footing at the beginning of the season. But one interesting thing about that is the ACC has already played their regular season. So teams like Pitt and Clemson, who are ranked above IU right now in the top 25, they're going to have a long layoff if they're in the tournament. So that's going to be kind of a big factor, but they can make that run into the College Cup Final Four.
Yeah, and I hope they do too. Everyone hopes they do too. B-Town will be rocking if they make that appearance to the Final Four and win that cup for number 9. That's going to do it for our show this week. Be sure to continue the discussion on our Instagram page at IUSTV Sports, Twitter page at IUSTV Sports, and on our Facebook at IUSTV Sports. We're always looking for ways to improve the show, so please feel free to ask any questions you might have. Everyone stay safe. Thank you for watching at home. And as always, toss it up, find out if we'll catch it, and we'll see you next week.